Hey everyone, welcome to yet another edition of What Drives You. We're creeping up towards 100 episodes. We're not quite there yet, but we're excited for our guest today. I'm Stan Windhorn, by the way. I'm one of the co-hosts, and with me, as always, is my good buddy and co-host Carl Bauer. Carl, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, thank you all for joining us. And Mark, I'll touch base how Mark and I know each other, but thank you, Mark, for joining us tonight. I know it's a little late night here. I'm in Salt Lake tonight on the road. Stan's in Austin, and Mark's back in sunny Chicago, braving the chill. But Marc Fishman and I go way back. We were coworkers at a little company called Trade and Velocity, which if you're in the auto space, it's one of the widgets that you put on your website to get values for your trade-ins in cars. And he's an unbelievable artist. He's a incredible dad of three now, right? Four. Holy crap, four. And miraculously, you got a baby girl though at the end, right? That was kind of the miracle. Yeah.
Yes,
So welcome, Mark.
glad to be here.
So Mark has a day job and he's got this fathering gig, which is pretty important. But he is also, and kind of one thing that's intrigued me, I think one of the most creative artists that I've met. His stuff that he can draw is so realistic, and it has this flair that's like part anime, part real. I mean, it's really, really cool stuff. So Unshaven Comics is the name of their company and their business, and they travel all over the country. So if you're into that Comic Con type of stuff, collectibles, comic books, comic novels. What's that other one? There's another big one that you've made.
That you've hit it. Whether
Yeah,
it's floppy copies or graphic novels, trade paperback, whatever you want to call them. But
graphic novel. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
all
So Mark,
original, all ages. Yep. I'm
how
excited.
did
Before you go on, Carl, with your question, I
yeah?
just want to say that, it's 9 o'clock plus here, and we don't usually do what drives you this late at night. But when Carl told me your background, Mark, first of all, anything creative, uh, artistic, it's just right up my alley. So I'm anxious to hear how you got going with this, and I would love to see more of your work and everything like that. But yeah, the creative process is my lifeblood. I've got a few different creative outlets. One of the things that I've never really been very good at though is drawing and things. I wish I've tried it, but I've just never been very good. So I'm excited to hear how you got started. Carl, sorry for the interruption. Go ahead with your questions for Mark, but I was just wanted him
Yeah,
to know that I dig what he does.
I will. Matter of fact, Mark, it's funny because today I was flying, and I before I got on the plane, I saw a couple videos on YouTube that totally reminded me of Stan. So I put this challenge out there, Stan the Craft Man, and I don't know if you saw that text earlier, Stan, and I said we have
I
got to
did.
do a separate channel that's just all his. I mean, this dude makes some incredible stuff. But anyway, back to our guest. How'd you get into art? Did you know early on? Did you go to school? I can't remember the whole story, so give us the skinny.
Yeah, I mean, I came from an artistic family, so to speak. My grandmother on my mother's side was a fine artist who never wanted to show her work. She went to the uh, Art Institute of Chicago and over the course of many years ended up taking so many courses that they just gave her a degree and told her to leave. Uh, but she tried literally everything: painting, mixed media, sculpture, um, everything you can imagine. And all of her work was amazing. So every time I would be over at her home with my grandfather, I was always in awe of that work. And my mother is an amazing artist herself, but never wanted to pursue it. Even as a hobby, aside from just a little bit of work here and there, she painted some portraits here and there. She took some classes and did some landscapes, but never really kind of stuck at it. So I was drawing at an early age, and I had in mind that I wanted to make comic books after I met Matt Wright, who is one of my partners at Unshaven Comics. Hilariously, I met him in class when he was scribbling on the back of a sheet like all of us artists would do, because you didn't care about the homework, you cared about the blank sheet of paper on the other side that you could
Mm.
draw on. And he was drawing a really sick Viking. And I just looked at that and I went, oh man, he is a better artist than I am. I better become his best friend. Um, and never stopped drawing. Definitely, I did pursue the degree in fine arts. Went to the Heron School of Art, got my degree in general fine arts, which I think it's its own ridiculous story of how I wound up there. But um, yeah, Matt and a third guy with us, Kyle, who cannot draw to save his life and would never take a dollar to do it. Um, we've remained friends since sixth grade. And yeah, eventually, I'm sure we'll get to the origin of Unshaven Comics. But yeah, basically, I've been drawing or doing something art related my whole life.
I got a quick question for you, Mark, because we definitely want to talk about Unshaven Comics, and I'm assuming that everyone must have a beard similar to yours to be a part of the company. But you mentioned your grandmother, that she was this incredible artist, but she never wanted to share her art with other people. I'm curious what your thoughts are on why that is, and do you think that's a common thing? Because we talked about this, some of the creative stuff that I do it for myself, but I do like it when other people appreciate what I've done. And so, what's your take on why your grandmother was so accomplished at it, but she didn't want others to see it or appreciate it, or what's your take on that?
I think some of it is for her, art was definitely therapeutic.
Sure.
She was a Holocaust survivor,
Oh,
literally put on the boat and shipped to America when she was, I want to say, 4 or 6, and lost pretty much her whole family minus her parents. And I think that she used a lot of growing up in that time period, in that atmosphere, all of that kind of built up. And I would assume, based on the artwork that she had made, that it was very personal work. And I was always told, I never asked her personally, but I got the feeling like she did it more for herself. And
hmm
even if the Art Institute had promoted it, she didn't see for her any commercial desirability. Like she didn't want to make any art for anybody else. So it's like,
yeah.
here's what I did, and it's out there. And there's definitely, I get exactly why people would do that. Certainly, my mom, like I said, she's made amazing work, and she did work as gifts for friends, but never
Yeah.
had any aspiration to like. It's the third rail in art school is like you get all these skills, and then like right at the end, they're like, by the way, would you like to learn how to make this a life? And it
Mm.
really kind of shakes the bin. And there are people that are just so cripplingly interior that they're like, I'm not standing in front of a group of people. I'm not putting my stuff on a wall and having people say anything to me.
Yeah. Do you wonder, do you think it maybe there's, first of all, what your grandmother went through and stuff, I can understand that personal aspect of it. But do you think in some cases, when you do present your art for others to see, there's a vulnerability there. Like, what if they don't like it? What if they don't get it?
Oh, all the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and again, it's some of that you live through in art school. I mean, critique is very much a part of the process, and it really depends on where you're schooled and who your teachers are and how things are run. But for me personally, the teachers that made the most impact in my education and my life, artistically speaking, were some of the harshest critics
Mm,
and pushers that I'd ever been under. Hilariously, when Matt and I were both in high school, we were in the same art program by senior year. And in the AP studio art class, the teacher had dubbed my work, if you've heard of composition, the placing of elements on a page, he looked at
right.
my art and called it craposition.
So
And just,
encouraging.
but I'll tell you what, I never worked harder for another teacher. It's
Interesting.
somehow he believed, and I guess I concur with him that there is a scholastic pursuit to art that can occur. And he was a harsh grader, which
Yeah.
always freaked people out. They're like, I'm here to paint a painting. What do you mean it's a D? And he
Yeah.
pointed out, he's like, oh, this is bad. This is bad. That line's wrong. You didn't shade that correctly. And they're like, stop it.
I had a professor in college. It was a creative writing class, and I wrote this thing, and I spent a lot of time on it, and I thought it was pretty cool. And his comment was, "Did you get a bunch of commas on sale?" I
Yeah,
I
I
guess I
imagine.
might have overused the commas just a little bit. I don't know.
And nowadays they'll just throw it into ChatGPT and say, hey, what's wrong with this?
Yeah, fix
Clean
it.
it
Right,
up.
right.
Mhm.
So you go to school, you go to college, you're looking for jobs, and this is kind of where I met you. I don't think you had any kids when you and I met, or maybe your wife was just pregnant. Um,
Yeah. At Based on that Facebook timeline thing I shared off air, I think if it was 2012, my son was almost one by that time I would have met you, but just one. I only had one.
yeah, yeah. And Stan, another thing, we'll jump to Unshaven Comics here, and for those of you who are listening, we'll put a little link in the description and pump them up a little bit, and in the shorts we'll get some of that information out there too, because there's a lot of stuff that you can buy, swag, pictures, the books, all that stuff. But Mark was also a kind soul in all my other crazy like little side projects. Stan, he was my designer, and the quality of work that he would do for me, which isn't anymore. So don't everybody be calling Marc Fishman or trying to email him, because we were both just starting out. We were dads, and we neither of us had a lot of disposable income. And he would do this stuff from like 10 to midnight or one, was just so affordable and yet like professional, like the best quality work that you could ever ask for. So just good stuff. My resume, some website design, Izimoto, all that Izimoto stuff is that's out there was Mark's design. So yeah, just amazing stuff. And he would start with nothing, and then I would just critique it a little bit, and he'd get it right to where I wanted it. Now, was that perfect or what he thought was great? No, maybe not. But just the flexibility and the humbleness and the ability and the willingness to help and do a side hustle was just great. So
That's super cool. So, Mark, I'm curious. I'm not familiar yet with Unshaven Comics, but are the comics more designed towards adult readers? What's the age group basically? Who's your audience?
When we started, well, the very first book that we ever did which was commissioned, which caused us to create the company. It was an all ages book. There was no particular age focus. I think it was a little bit more targeted towards that book was towards like the immigrant market. The publishers themselves were second generation immigrants that had commissioned a
Okay.
book. When we started out on our own, we definitely went towards, I'd say, the late teens starting. Basically at that point we were in our 20s and we had a lot of
Yeah.
gore and four-letter words to get out. But actually, around the time that I would have met Carl is actually when we had a bit of an awakening. Met with Matt and I both becoming fathers in 2012, and we were doing an anthology series. So every book was its own one-off thing. And we'd done a horror story. We did kind of a rated R superhero thing. And we were up to the third book, the finishing part of the series. And we were all out for pie and coffee, just figuring out what we were going to do. And we had made this fake ad in the back of our first book where we were kind of doing a wink and a nod to the fans saying like, well, if we ever sell out, here's what we'll do. Like this
Mhm.
commercially crass, all ages, cash grabby Power Rangers thing. And I stared at that ad and I'm looking at it and I passed it back to Matt and Kyle. I said, why aren't we doing this? Like, this is hilarious.
Mm.
And it was just supposed to be a joke, but then as soon as that came up and we made that book, it was called The Samernauts. And at up to that point, we were pitching books and doing well at the Comic Con. When we pitched The Samernauts for the first time, we were cut off mid pitch, and they said, "Shut up and take my money." And we're like, "Oh,
Wow.
maybe something's there. And ever since, we have been an all ages brand since 2012, and I don't think we would ever go back. This is something
Yeah.
that we, even early in our career, it was always weird at a Comic Con. You'd be selling books, and suddenly here comes like an 8-year-old, and they're trying to pick up your book, and you're like, oh, no, 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 no. And the parents are always like, oh, who cares? He's seen worse.
Hmm.
And we're like,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't want to be the one that you're calling up when your kid has nightmares. So yeah,
Yeah. Well,
we're
that's
definitely all
cool.
ages now.
And that
So,
Stan goes back to because I remember vividly when Mark was pitching me on the Sammernauts, and because it was a combination of Jedi and Star Wars and ninjas and Ninja Turtle, like it was all these cool elements, but it was their own. So they had to create characters and storyline, and like a different world. It was just brilliant. There was so much brain power in it. It was so creative. It was just really something to watch and see. So, all right, so you finished college, you guys get that commission, and this is another thing that I think these guys stand were way ahead of their time. Because and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong how you did this, but they would all Mark would always post something that was like their journey to the event. We ate 3 hot dogs and bought like it was all this detail, and we spent $937 when we made $3 selling books. It was something like they were just full disclosure. It was just hilarious to watch
hmm.
the effort, just the passion they put in for literally negative money.
I
So
mean, probably in the early years. Yeah. I
yes.
mean, it's one of those questions that you field when you're on the other side of the table is inevitably people ask you how you got there and how hard or how can I do this? And it baffled us because we'd been on that side of the table too. And it always seemed like the doors closed in your face before you could even get there. And we all thought that was ridiculous. So we just before there were influencers, anything else like that. And I couldn't say that we gained any following for it, but those that joined for the ride, it was always fun. This is me and my two best friends now of 30 years, just documenting time that we're hanging out and having fun at it. In the early years, especially before we sold trade paperbacks, we weren't making any money. It was make the table and you've done your job. But we
Hmm.
understood like I hate the term of trying to like gain exposure or earn it. Like anyone who's trying to sell you on doing that is just wasting their breath. We learned hard, but we also knew the more content we made, eventually we would have enough to make a full trade paperback. And the experience of making our first trade, which we still sell, it's our number one thing that we sell, is where we turned the corner of Unshaven Comics finally having enough money that Matt, Kyle, and I did not have to actively keep throwing it. Like the
Hmm.
company makes just enough money to stay alive and take us to the next show.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it worked out in that manner because we grind we I hate that we ground at it. We grinded hard to get ourselves there. We've seen folks in the artist alley along with us who have grown up with us. We've seen some exit. We've seen new faces come in lately. But the cool thing I like to point out to everybody, Unshaven Comics has been a side hustle before that term was even coined. And it's been a permanent side hustle. It's not going anywhere. But we're going places, we hope, always. Even if it takes us a little bit longer and we're not doing as many shows. I think back in 2012, we were aiming to do almost a show a month. Um, that's down to about maybe 4 to 6 a year, depending, because now all of us are dads. So between day jobs, dad jobs, and anything else that comes up, like, when you get these shows, you got to tell everybody, I'm gone. Just go to Facebook and enjoy the posts of us making fun of Kyle.
Mark, do you think it was kind of tying back to Stan a little bit, and not to pun the what drives you theme here, but if you didn't have these best friends and buddies driving each other, do you think you'd have continued on this long, or do you think you'd have just fizzled out?
I mean, I think for us very specifically, we would not exist individually in the manner that we are. Matt is an amazing artist, but as potent as he is at plotting things, he would be the first to admit that he's not there to write dialogue or to be able to kind of
Mm.
build that stuff up. And he's all analog. He can do some digital stuff, but the lettering, any of the other stuff. Kyle, in addition to being a good writer, is also an absolute knockdown, drag out best salesman I've ever met in my life. Um, at that very first Comic Con, we sat on our hands, all three of us, because we had no idea what we were doing. We just figured you put your book on the table and people come and buy it, regardless of the fact that we had been fans and been to literally dozens of shows prior to that. Somehow we thought that just by virtue of sitting there, people would buy. And that first day, nothing happened. Maybe we moved 2, 3 books. And the next morning, our neighbor was very kind, said, "Would you guys take some advice?" And we're like, "We will take all the advice." And he said, "Look, man, you got to stand up. You got to like get the people to come talk to you, like make a big deal out of this because they won't stop unless you stop them, and they won't buy unless you ask them. And the worst thing they'll
Mm.
ever tell you is no." And Kyle heard that. And if you're familiar with like The Predator, suddenly his vision just became heat signature. He doesn't even see faces. It's just you walk past, he stops you. Um, I don't have access to it regularly, but yeah, here it is. Always got to keep the gimmick handy. There you go. We stop people with a laminated sign. There you go. Can I tell you about my comic book?
That's great.
And that sign has been the difference between us being successful and not. And then Kyle is a consummate pitch man. He also can't draw. So I picked up all the skills that the other two guys didn't have. Lettering the book, coloring the book, putting it together, finding the printer, marketing, anything else that needed to be done. And then on top of that, Matt, I should note, is taller than me and angrier, and he drinks. And he forced me to start doing half the art. And I was like, but now I'd have to write and draw my own half of the book. And he's like, yeah, sounds good to me. So
What you're describing right now, Mark, is truly, I think, the key to the success of some businesses that with other guests that we've had on this, and that is coming together as a team. What you just described sounds like the perfect situation. Where you're weak, the others are strong, and vice versa. And when you come together with all of these different skill sets and talents, that's when you can, that's really kind of one of the only true ways to have success, in my opinion.
yeah, and for the folks that like are in the artist alley with us there, who I've seen that are solo acts and do that stuff, I have all the respect in the world that they grind like that and they
Hmm.
come together. It's funny the revelations you have in age over time. We always used to complain snarkily a lot about how we were never invited to the cool kids tables, felt like we were
Mm.
always outsiders, even in the realm of indie comic book creators. And it took growing up for me to realize, oh yeah, I have Matt and Kyle. All these other
Yeah.
people are solo acts. They don't have their best friend at their table. They are finding one another in community. And the thing is, there have been a few times where I've been close to people that have asked me, "Hey, why don't you guys do this full time?" Or like, "What is preventing you from doing that?" And we said, "Well, there's three of us. No one's going to spend that kind of money to get three people's salaries and benefits and all that. Like we all have to provide for our families, and even the
Hmm.
people that do this as their solo gig, I'm like, I don't think anyone's rolling in it. So
Yeah.
we got to survive. And
Well,
on
and it's more fun when you have some your friends involved too. And
yeah,
the teamwork thing is great. I mean, it's like Carl and I, I've got a little bit of a broadcasting background, so I bring that to the table. Carl is just the most handsome guy ever, so he just,
Ah,
just look at that face. Look at that face.
no,
That's what
but
he brings
thank
to
you,
the
Stan,
table
for
on
the
this
kind words.
podcast, Mark.
I'm the eye candy, is what you're saying.
You're the eye candy, brother.
Mark, I'd be happy to come to your booth at some point too and add a little eye candy to the booth. Maybe we'd sell some more magazines.
we're
Nope.
starting to, we've started branching to two tables, so we've got the room.
Carl could hold a
Happy.
sign.
Yeah.
I'd
We
love to hold a sign. Actually,
for a
I would
while
do
we
it
had,
for free. If I got a T-shirt that had that on it, I would do it for free.
that exists in our merch shop.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd love it.
well, mainly
I
just
have an
for the
idea
joke of
though, real quick, while Stan's yammering on about me, and it's a good commission idea, and I think it's about the story would be about a single guy who's one of the kindest, most generous, most creative people that I know. Let's just call him Paul, and he cannot find the right woman. So he lives in Austin, Texas, and he is just constantly searching for Cinderella. So it's an adult kind of theme comic, not pornographic or anything, but just that adult theme, just the handsome knight looking for Cinderella.
Or
That's a commission idea.
Cinderellas.
somebody in the indie scene is going to scoop it up. It's going to happen, especially in Austin. There's a great scene out there. You don't have to go far. Just go to a coffee shop and just drop it. Find yourself
Yeah.
an artist and they'll run it.
Stan, do you think, I mean, Paul, I mean, Stan, do we think we would have to get permission from all the ladies that we're talking about?
We don't have to name them. And yeah, I could come up with some content for the storyline on this. I can't draw, as we already established, but
Well,
listen,
that's
how
why
did
we
we
have to
get down
commission.
this? How did we get here? We're
I
talking about
It just
Mark
popped into my head. It
and
was it was
Unshaven
free
Comics.
free
I got a
form.
quick question for you, Mark. We don't want to take up too much of your time, but when you were a kid, I mean, I had a whole bunch of comics, although I think my choices were a little weird for a kid. But what did you grow up with comics and what did you like?
So I'd say like prior to Matt, I didn't purchase any comics. I had a friend in fourth grade who kind of got me into them, but I'll simply say that I had a pretty strict set of parents where I had every action figure I ever wanted, but I didn't get bit by the comic book bug at the right time. I collected a lot of cards, a lot of like the trading cards for the Marvel characters. Never
Yeah.
interested in the book. I just wanted the characters. But after I met Matt, what sort of cemented our friendship is both of our birthdays are in December. He came to my house. So he and I met, let's say August in 1993 when school started. December rolls around. He rides his bike to my house and he gives me my birthday present, which was two number one issues of a now defunct comic company called Malibu Comics. He gave me Ultra Force number one and The Strangers number one because I saw the cartoon of both of
Mm.
those characters, told him it was amazing, and he's like, "Oh, well, here's your number ones." Now, we would find out later that these books weren't even worth the paper they were printed on, but I collected almost all of the Malibu universe to start. And then, I mean, that kind of kicked it off. And then we met with Kyle, and between the three of us, it was just a constant, go to the comic shop, get something, go back to one of our houses, read it, argue over whose characters were better,
Gotcha.
rinse,
Yeah, when
repeat.
I was growing up, I was never into the superhero comics. I was reading Archie
Oh, I definitely read
and
Archie,
Richie
but young.
Rich. I mean, I think it's kind of lame now that I look back at it. When I got a little bit older, and I think this was probably an independent comic book company, but well, this will. In my partying days, there was this comic book called The Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers. Uh,
Never
they
heard of
were
that one.
kind of stoners. They were stoners. Carl would never have read this comic book, but and then right about college age, I got into Conan. Uh,
Hmm.
and this was before the Arnold movie, which kind of put Conan on the map. I read some of the novels too, but man, even as a semi-adult, the Conan comics were really cool to me.
I mean, that's the best part about comic books too, is that I mean, the first comic books I was privy to actually I saw in Hebrew school. There was a famous graphic novel by Art Spiegelman called Mouse that reimagines the Holocaust, but casts the Jews as mice, the Nazis as cats, and it's all
Mm,
anthropomorphized and really
yeah.
stylized. And actually, one of our great friends in comics, somebody that we met at that very first show, Mike Gold, is formerly the editor-in-chief of a company called First Comics, which was published out of Chicago in the late 80s. And their whole thing was filling in all the gaps on the newsstand that Marvel and DC didn't do. So they
Hmm.
had detective noir tales. They had what, let's call it hard sci-fi. So like your
Yeah.
Conan, like Warlord, what is his name? Warlord of Mars. A lot of books like that. They
Yeah.
built out the characters like Charlton comics that have those. And I'd say even nowadays, like if people ask me favorite creators or books that I'm actually privy to that are outside of the superhero genre, I love Harvey Pekar and American Splendor and that whole line. Like that's as close to like a Marc Fishman comic as there's ever going to be. Is that kind
Hmm.
of heavily influenced by reality?
So, Carl, were you into comics at all, ever?
Yeah, yeah. I was just going to chime in. I mean, I did a few of the superheroes, but my staple was two, and I think one spun out of the other. But it was Mad Magazine, and then Spy versus Spy. So I think Spy versus Spy was like an insert in Mad, if memory serves, and then they spun it
Yeah.
out into some little graphic novels, which were really, really
Yeah,
cool. Those
Spy
are my
versus
two.
Spy was one of the most popular sections of Mad Magazine.
Yeah,
It really helped that magazine launch, actually,
yeah.
or
And
Those
the
are
not
my
animated
just
two.
shorts
launch.
later, great.
It took them to bigger success. It's always was one of the most popular sections of Mad.
Huh. And Mark,
Yeah.
the other thing that I wanted to catch up on and get your take on. So because you were the one of the first people that I knew that did a podcast or anything like a podcast. You guys still doing that? Or you just once in a while? Did it?
So
How
the
long did
the
you do it?
the Unshaven Randcast, I think we did it for almost 3 to 5 years.
Hmm.
Um, houses, people moved. Kyle moved to Kenosha, uh, and we tried for a while to do like the virtual like this before it was popularized, and we did it for as long as it made us excited and happy. And then eventually we're like, I think we're running out of topics, or we were regurgitating the same talking points over and over again. I'm like, I don't know if we're adding to the mystique of the brand, so we called it. I will say I am doing a semi-regular podcast right now through WRMN Radio in Chicago, or I guess it's wherever that is, the Fox River Valley, called the Torn Quadcast, which is a professional wrestling podcast with
Ooh.
Chicago's King of Geeks, Elliot Serrano, who was very kind and asked me to co-host with him. And now he's joking with me that I should just take the show over because he's too tired to do it.
Ooh, I'll have to get the details on that and put it in here as well. Yeah. I forgot you were a WWE, WWF, all that stuff fanatic. Yeah.
The
Are
guiltiest
you
pleasure I
familiar with
have.
Tyler Rex?
Yes. Now I believe he is Luchasaurus.
Actually, now he's Gabby.
Oh, that
Ty-
could be too. Yes.
Tyler Rex went through let's just call it a big change in life, I've known.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Anyway,
Okay, yeah. That's yeah, there's a couple. Yeah.
Oh, now I know who you're talking about.
yes. Tyler
Yeah.
Ah,
Rex was Gabe Tough, now Gabby Tough. Uh, that was his W.
Yeah,
When
he was in WWE
he, it was
for a
his
while.
WWE. Yeah. Anyway, well, listen, man, we appreciate your time, and we always try to be respectful of this. I don't know if Carl set you up for this or not, but we like to ask three questions, and they come in rapid fire. They should be very easy, but we started off with what drives you, kind of being in the car business. So here comes your three questions, Mark. What was
Okay.
your first car you ever had?
A 1991 Chevrolet Lumina.
A
oh,
Lumina. That's the first Lumina we've had on the
yeah,
show.
yeah.
Okay, what was your favorite car that you've ever had?
2003 Root Beer Brown Honda Element C.
I love the
Oh.
root beer brown edition. Okay, final question in this speed round. Your fantasy car. If you could have any car, no budget, budget's not a concern. What is your dream vehicle?
Uh, any minivan that doesn't look like a minivan.
Okay. All right,
I
Carl,
guess
you want
with
to
four
finish
kids
things
and
up
one
with our words of wisdom?
with six people, I guess that's practical, very
Yeah.
very practical, which shows Mark's heart. He's just a practical dude. All right,
Yeah.
last question, but then we're going to add a new one in because Stan, I forgot to prep you on this. My apologies, but it's a good one. The words of wisdom, we call it the wow question, is really what would we've got some great nuggets of advice on this one, Mark, and this one really helps in the shorts category. What would you tell 18-year-old Mark that you wish that you know now that you wish you knew then? What would you tell young Marc Fishman? What are you telling your kids now? Because now you're experienced and a veteran and wise.
I guess to say, I probably told myself the same thing then that I tell them now. You can do whatever you want so long as you are prepared to work at it. Um, I live it every day. I said I work a normal 9 to 5 job, which affords me the ability to do the things I love genuinely. And if you do stuff like that, you never work a day in your life. Well, I work every day of my life, and I love doing that. So I just want them, as I would tell myself, pursue your passion and just understand that like you're gonna have to do things to make ends meet, but never lose sight of the things that bring you joy.
That's
Yeah, and
awesome. Love it.
here's our last new question. Stan, I think you'll like this one because Stan's the epitome. If you go in the dictionary and look at super salesman, Stan Windhorn's picture is there. And that this question is this: who do you think we should talk to have on our YouTube channel?
I think you should talk to my friend Tony Green, who is in automotive and is one of the most passionate creators and folks I know.
Hmm, good one.
Oh,
Hook me up.
great new question. You surprised me. And Mark, since Carl called me the super salesman, I would love to see a cartoon character drawn after me as the super salesman. So,
Mark's a busy man now. He's in high demand, Stan. But I
well,
might.
it never hurts that. Listen, Mark said you don't get anything if you don't ask,
That's true.
right?
You know,
Yes.
we're always the cool part about Sam or Nuts is that it allows us to go through any time and place, and we are often inspired by the people that we meet. For my half of the books, especially, my villains usually come from the people I cast, and their personalities become what happens in the book. So, one of the books that we are working on, The Samronauts of the 1990s, the book is going to be mysteriously titled The Few That Failed. There is definitely room for some slick salesman type folk in there.
I would love to be a villain. I would
So it
love to
just
be a
might happen.
villain.
Yes. In the same vein
Look
of
at
those who
this.
follow DC Comics, Maxwell Lord, we needed our own Maxwell Lord. So you never know.
I
I
know
love
we
it.
I know we were about to wrap up, Mark. I absolutely positively am going to send you some video of Stan, who was not that kind of video. Uh, Stan, when he did his time at uh, Medieval Times, when he was the MC, full regalia, full sword, the whole deal. That as a salesman slash villain, that would be fun to see.
Oh, it's
I'd
gonna
pay
make
for that.
itself. I was about to ask. I said if I've only been to Medieval Times once, and we were in the Green Knight section, and I think he's always the villain. So we
Oh,
loved
the
him.
Green Knight was, I don't know if they do that anymore, but the green section it was so much fun. The evil
Yeah.
and wicked Green Knight.
Yeah. So
Yes.
that, as someone who went there in full snark mode, that shut me up really quickly when I was like, oh no, I'm here for the villains. Like, yeah, let's do that. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Oh, that was a great section to sit in. Hey, Mark, appreciate all your time. Thanks for joining, especially late at night like this.
Oh, Carl knows
Uh,
this is my second shift. Your guy's fine.
yeah. Well, we appreciate you very much, Carl. It's always good to see you, my friend. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this edition of What Drives You. And remember, be good humans.